Welcome to the MMHP and the 989. Podcasting from the Michigan Rock Legends Hall of Fame in downtown Bay City. Channeling all styles and eras of Michigan music history. From the city by the bay. And now, Dr. J, Sir Fred, Mr. Mike, and your host, Scott Baker.
We're back here at the Michigan Rock Legends Hall of Fame here. We are in the middle of a January rainstorming, slush week of ice and every kind of mixed weather. And we decided we're going to have a different kind of episode for this one. We're going to have a collector's show. And we're still waiting on one guest. Maybe he'll show up. If not, we have two other guests in the house. My buddy Keith and our friend Marlin here. Can you guys introduce yourselves? Marlin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Marlin Wilson. I collect 45s. I'm from Freeland, Michigan. And I'm 70, going on 78.
When did you start?
When did I start collecting?
Yeah.
Right after seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan.
Keith, tell us a little bit about you.
Keith Hlavacs. I'm from Millington. I collect 78s, or in 78s Edison cylinders, and usually mostly stuff before 1960. And I have other stuff too. I also have the wind-up phonographs. I also have old radios, old telephones. I collect a lot of stuff.
Incredible.
Too much.
Incredible. Well, this is awesome to have collectors here. We got the four of us in the house, Mr. Mike, Dr. J, Sir Fred, and myself, and we're going to let it roll. So, Gary, you got anything to fire off right off the bat?
First thing I got to ask Keith, have you ever met Leon, or did you ever meet Leon Katzinger?
No, I haven't.
Leon was sadly, Leon passed away a few years ago, but he was a major collector, and he collected the very same kind of things that you did.
Okay.
He had numerous Edison, a cylinder. You don't really call them phonographs, do you?
Actually, Edison, the term phonograph was invented by Edison, so all the other ones were, like Victor had talking machines, Columbia was a graphanola, Edison actually was a phonograph, it became a generic term for all of them, but Edison cylinder phonograph, then he had the diamond discs later, they were about that thick, like about 378 stacked together.
Right. Well, Leon also collected 78s. Mm-hmm. He was a little bit more of a rock and roll guy, but not completely. I know he told me that he had all 5 of Elvis's Sun records on 78. I don't know what kind of condition they were in. He also, of course, we've got Frankie Lyman's original tombstone in the gallery here, and he had a 78 of Why Do Fools Fall in Love on the G label by Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers. So I was real curious if you had met him, and I don't know what happened, after Leon passed away, going down in his basement. I always joked it was like going in what I imagined Hogwarts in Harry Potter. Was like, there was stuff everywhere. It was just incredible. I don't know how he found anything down there, but he had his own way of storing things. How do you store your collection?
Poorly. Wherever I can get something packed in somewhere.
Okay, records. You sound like you and Liam would have been soul brothers here.
His name is familiar. I know I've heard of him, but was he from Bay City?
He was. Leon was in education like I was. He was a principal at Lindsay School in Bay City. Also the public school out in Auburn. I don't remember what the name is.
McLeod or what are the ones?
McLeod. No, I don't think that's not in Auburn. Anyways, whatever the public school was in Auburn, very highly thought of. He was a great guy. In fact, I wouldn't be in the museum if it wasn't for Leon. He invited me to become a member of the board, and we served together for a number of years, and real sad to see Leon go. We're going to try to get his photo in here somewhere, but maybe when I deal with that, I'll have to see if I can get in touch with his wife or his son and see what's going on with that collection. You may be very interested if they're going to sell some of it. I'll tell you.
Well, all of us are collectors here tonight, and Keith, I saw you recently were in a video for Third Man Records too, and buying some stuff in their store.
Yeah, like I say, I'm mostly 78s, but I I pick up some other stuff too. Yeah, I just happened to be down there with some friends, and for my first time there, and somebody was doing an interview down there, and I started talking, and they said, "Well, just kind of give them my take on things."
Yeah, that was cool. I come across that.
Yeah,
That was awesome.
Well, Jack White has put out some collections of blues material that goes way back in the 20s and 30s, I think. Yeah.
Did you look at that Paramount collection? That's like $500.
Oh wow.
Comes in a suitcase, but he put out the whole Paramount record label, everything.
Wow.
It may not. Did they tape you last year down there, or a long time ago?
It was
or what?
last year.
Oh,
We just went down in
yeah,
December.
but that was there when I
For a
did
while?
my project with him.
Jack White put out that My Happiness too.
Oh, yeah, the Elvis,
Yep.
the original recording that he made on Sun Records. Yeah. Yeah, he's done some really amazing things.
Yeah,
that's a
I
fun place
bought
to go down.
when we were down there. I bought the Johnny Powers and Jack Earl. He was on Sun, right?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, both of them were from Michigan. So
Yeah. That's something we're definitely going to bring up here is your guys' collection of Michigan artists too. But Marlin, give us a little bit of your collection.
I got a lot of Michigan stuff. A lot of local stuff like Question Mark and the Bossmen, and Count in the Colony, Bed of Roses. Them were all local bands from around this area.
Yeah, I heard you talking before we started that you had quite the local collection.
Yeah,
Exceptional.
out of the west side of the state, there was a record label called Fenton, and boy, are their records getting expensive. Hard to find.
Isn't there a collection that you
Right.
hear?
Well, the issue that you probably have, right, Marlon, is most of those records didn't have that many pressed.
No.
Maybe sometimes there are only a couple hundred, and over the years, some of them get lost. And
Well, the Pagogo label that Question Mark put out, I heard there was only 500,
right.
and I got two of them.
oh, okay, well, we've got one of them here.
It's getting
not,
lower
not
and lower.
one of yours, but yeah, that's the big thing with those small. A lot of them were just on
Great
independent
Lakes label
little.
blues company out of Bay City.
Right.
The Great Lakes label put out some good music.
We only put out 500 of the Black Kettle record I put out.
Well, the blues company did two labels for Experiment in Color, OMG, which is hard to find, and then Great Lakes.
Pear. Oh, wasn't one of them on Pear Records?
Oh, that's when he switched to Timothy.
Oh, that was Timothy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Blues Company was just before the Timothy album, which we had a feature on last year,
Yeah.
or 2 years ago for the 50th anniversary of it.
So you picked up some copies of that from Timothy himself, right?
Well, I got them from that bass
Oh,
player. who
Lane
introduced me to-
Valier.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We had a show on Lane too.
I got Woman on 45 on Pear, and then I got both albums, the reissue and the original.
Really?
I understand Fred sold his.
Yeah, I did.
We've had that on a few episodes.
We don't want to say the price.
Yeah.
So you're looking around for some of these 45s. What kind of prices are you running into? I'm sure they're
$900 for a blues
whoa.
company
Wow.
For the blues company?
for the OMG label.
Excellent.
I was thinking maybe 150 to 200.
Yeah.
I'm not even
I
in the
was
ballpark
up
here.
to-
900.
And finding the Fenton labels, they're all over the board. I mean, I found some reasonable, but they're out of this world. The Chantays, you're gonna pay big money for them.
Yeah, that was quite a deal. That whole Fenton label over there with Dave Kalmbach, and he recorded all those, I guess we would call them garage bands for
Yeah.
the most part. And that's quite a collection, that Scream Loud, that was put out on CD, which had a lot of them. So
Yeah.
you could at least hear them.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good quality as well for, something that was taken, I think, from the original 45s.
And you mentioned you had Tim Ward here. I'm looking for his Isles of March.
Ides of March is one record.
Yeah.
There's 45 in that. Eh?
Yeah, Scott Ebright is still alive. I should give you Scott's email. I don't know if he's got a copy of it or not.
Well, you
Or did I? Did I give you that?
He gave me one guy I
Okay.
talked to. I don't know if his name was Scott.
Okay, yeah, he was the drummer in the band.
He said he's just keeping them.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, well, he probably knows how valuable they are. He's not going to let them go.
But that Great Lakes label, there was a band out of Benton Harbor called New Era, and they put on a fantastic song. It was dynamite.
Yeah. How about of course, we all of us, at least Fred and I guess, Scott, you were probably too young for the Bossmen, but they were like the Beatles of Tri-Cities for sure.
545s.
Yeah, and they've got, they were out on a number of different small little
five
labels.
different labels.
Yeah, and you've got them all?
Yeah.
Wow.
What's the most valuable Bossman 45 out there?
Probably the one that's on. It's a white label. I think its initials are HJ, something like that.
HBL
H-
or something,
yeah.
something like that.
I got that. And they all autographed it for me.
Yeah, I've got that too. It's all autographed.
Yeah, but the one that's hard to get is Beck.
Oh,
They put one out
Yeah.
on Beck. The soft label put out
yeah.
Lanny's song, Take a
Right.
Look, My Friend, but they put it out first on Beck.
Oh,
Do you know anything about the Beck label? Is that a Saginaw label or?
Well, Saginaw Group,
Oh, okay, probably is.
but the Beck label, it's hard to find.
Okay.
Wow.
Nobody's
wow,
looking for it.
never heard of
Was
it.
that the second label, third label?
That's first label.
Oh, the original
Then they
label.
went to soft.
Okay. I remember when I was working with Dick when they had just issued all the singles on a CD,
Yeah.
and they printed them at the studio that we were working at.
You know where he got all the singles from?
Is that you,
Mike Ball.
Mike Ball? Okay.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's fantastic CD collection.
Yeah.
I think everybody that wants Michigan music owns
Still
that
in my
copy.
car CD player.
Oh, wonderful.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's
There's also a couple lost records by the Bossmen that didn't make that CD.
really?
Yep. They're on other CDs, compilations. And I asked Pete Woodman if that was their song. He says, Christ, I put out so many I don't remember.
Well, there's a couple are on the A Square
Yeah.
collection. I Cannot Stop You, which
Yep.
he gave to
Cherry Slush.
Slush. And the other one that he gave to Tonto and the Renegades is on there. I'm trying to think which song that was right now. That collection has also got a very early version of Mystery Man,
Yeah.
which was kind of interesting to listen to. Yeah, jeez.
There's a guy in Saginaw who has an acetate by Dick Wagner and the Frost. He wants $600 for it though.
All right, and that is it the acetate of a single or
No,
the
it's an
album?
album.
Oh,
And
is
it's
that the
got-
first one?
It's got one unreleased song, but I made a CD of it,
Oh, okay.
and something about Chicago.
All right. Wow.
So,
Yeah, fantastic.
but 45s have what I'm focusing on now. But I do have, Friday Night the Hideout and the Best of the Hideout and their first three albums they put out that, highly collectible.
Oh, right. And that's that band, the Fugitives, right? Yeah, that they became SRC.
Yeah.
At least the instrumental players. One of the times I was talking to you, you were trying to find an album from a Midland group. I think they were called the
I
Satisfactions.
found a 45.
Did you find it?
Yep.
Okay. Was it from a guy in Midland?
Nope. I bought it off eBay.
Okay, because I remembered when they had They had a very interesting display there. I'm trying to think how many years ago that was. I bet it was 15 years ago. They did a big rock and roll thing, which is very unlike, Midland Center for the Arts to do something, that kind of an artistic display. But they had some of Astrid Kirchner's shots that she took of the Beatles
Yep.
in Hamburg. Did you go to that by
No.
any chance? And that's where I saw 45, the Satisfaction's 45. And I thought, well, maybe that was somebody from Midland that, displayed it. All right. So, Keith,
Yes.
what do you do with do you play your 78s?
Oh yeah, I play them, and I'll make compilation CDs and give to other collectors and other friends.
Oh, wow.
But
Okay.
we also have record spins occasionally. There's a group of people, mostly from the Detroit area. Bunch, like maybe about 6 or 8 people get together. We all bring records out of our collection. We take turns playing them and
Oh, neat.
talking about them, that type of thing.
All right. How is the sound quality on the 78s?
It can vary,
Yeah,
depending on how worn it is.
Well, right. I still have some 78s. They're all rock and roll 78s. But all I had was a little, I guess we call it a Victrola with a steel, needle.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was just grinding through those 78s. But that's all I had.
Yeah, that's the problem with, especially the later 78s, the stuff recorded, say, after 1940 or so. With the steel needle, it's kind of harsh on them.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. But, what are you going to do?
Yeah,
It's a different time.
oh yeah, that's
That's all I had.
why some of them are, weren't that many made of certain ones, but then too, a lot of them got worn out by things like that too.
And brittle
Yeah.
also.
Yeah,
Sadly, I lost a few of mine. My copy of Peggy Sue by Buddy Holly cracked when it was dropped on the floor. I think my first rock and roll record was probably Hound Dog, Don't Be Cruel by Elvis. That one also cracked.
I have a copy for sale.
Well, thank you, Fred.
Well,
You're not going to just give it to me, as a childhood
no.
memory? No. Okay.
There's going to be a few things, I think, coming up for sale tonight, so he's been looking forward to this show. What are some of the hardest things to find, Keith, for your collection? Or hardest things that you're looking for?
well, the blues stuff is the most expensive. Like you're talking the 1920s and 30s. Like I still don't own Robert Johnson 78, for instance. Those they just right to the roof, and I probably never will. The prices they are. But just the more obscure stuff. The thing is that stuff that they made a lot of copies of, it's still somewhat available. But the stuff that they didn't, somebody who was, not very well known and they made their first recordings, just like in any genre, not very well known and they made their first recordings, and then now there's a big demand and not very many records. I mean, some of these there's only one or two known copies.
What's your prized possessions?
I do have a Charlie Patton on Paramount.
Oh.
When I bought it, it was broken in 3 pieces, lovingly glued together by a guy out in California, Jim Cooprider, I think his name was, professional record gluer.
Well,
And it does play. It repeats in a couple spots, but I bought it from the late Richard Height, Bob the Bear Height's younger brother from Canned Heat.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I used to.
He had a huge collection.
Oh yeah, those guys from Canned Heat were all 78 collectors and primarily old blues and old hillbilly stuff and that. So, yeah, that's how they got their start. And Richard and I became pretty good friends, although I never ended up meeting him in person. He passed away before I had a chance, but used to call him up late at night, like 2 or 3 in the morning. He was the night owl. And after having a few drinks, call him up. We talk a little music, and
wow.
it was quite a interesting part of my life there. But unfortunately, he passed away in 2001, and that year I was going to try to plan a visit to a trip to Mississippi to visit him, and it never happened.
Oh, wow. Huh. Incredible.
Do you, by any chance, have a copy of an old blues, I think from the 20s, by Trixie Smith? My Man Rocks Me with a Steady Roll.
I may.
Yeah, supposedly
Yeah.
it's the first record that mentioned rock and roll
Okay.
in the lyrics.
Okay.
How about, have you got into any of the hillbilly
Oh, yeah.
78s?
Very much so.
Okay, how about Fortune Records, anything like that? Any Fortune releases?
Yeah, probably have a few on Fortune. I can't think of anything specifically right now, but yeah, I know I do. I'm trying to, yeah.
Okay.
I can picture the label, but I'm
Roy
trying to,
Hall,
Well, High Q was
yeah,
on
Roy
Detroit
Hall,
too.
yeah.
the piano player.
Yeah, York Brothers.
I do have York Brothers. Actually, the one I can't find, it's somewhere lost in the shuffle at home, but on United, their original 1939 recording of Hamtramck Mama,
Oh, man. Okay.
the acoustic guitars and that before they did the.
I may have it.
Okay, I have it. I just don't know where it's at right now.
I have a Hamtramck Mama 78, but I'm not sure if it's that label.
Yeah,
'Cause
Bullet.
it was on a few labels.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
released it at least on
Yeah.
4 different labels.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, wow.
yeah. The one on Bullet that I found, I could have sworn I had a good copy, but I have one of the big chunk missing out of it. About a fourth of the record's missing, but it's like, but it's still play the rest
Yeah, I
of it.
think that might have been the last version they did of it.
I think so.
Yeah, okay. It was because they had moved to Nashville, I believe, when they recorded Don Bullet.
Yeah, because like the York Brothers, I guess it's kind of hillbilly boogie was kind of precursor to rockabilly.
Right?
Have you read Greg Mackey's book?
No.
He has a whole book on the York Brothers.
Oh, really? Interesting.
He was one of our guests
He was
too.
a guest on here, but he's from Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's got another one on the genre as a whole, right?
Right. The whole country,
Yeah,
U.S. but out of Detroit.
right.
Country in Detroit or something.
Actually, I brought
There's
a
a book
copy.
on Fortune Records now out of Detroit.
Well, that's Mind Over Matter, right?
Forever
The big
to
one.
get through
Yeah,
it.
big-
man.
Yeah,
So much information
That's an
in that
incredible
book.
book.
yeah, it really is.
Wow.
It's something else.
Well, the couple that was it Billy Miller and his wife is Miriam Linna, who's kind of kept things rolling since Billy died a few years back.
From
But
Martin
she's-
Records?
Yeah, right. And yeah, she's. Are you Facebook friends with her? She puts
Yeah.
a lot of interesting stuff out
I
there.
actually even talked to her on the phone
Oh, okay.
because I bought some
Ooh,
records.
look at
and-
this.
That's a
Who is it?
recent acquisition.
Yeah, York Brothers on King.
Oh,
See, that's
okay.
where.
Wow, that looks in new condition.
Actually, yeah, it's in
Oh,
very nice shape.
oh.
Yeah, fantastic.
That's a recent
Recent,
acquisition in the
one on
last month or
Green
so.
Bay.
I didn't. I've always seen King with the the blue and silver label. Was this the color on their earlier releases?
Yeah, this was the common one on the 78s was this maroon kind of color.
Okay.
The one that I regret, one of the ones that got broke, I had a Canadian one with the maple leaf on it, the Maple Leaf King. Unfortunately, that one got broke, but
Wow.
Oh,
Very neat.
that's correct.
So are you collecting any 78s at all, Marlin?
No.
All right. You're strictly a 45 guy.
Well, a few 33s, but
Oh yeah. Well, that
yeah,
won't surprise.
SRC had a couple albums out, and Question Mark had a couple albums out,
Right.
but mostly 60s rock and roll.
Yes, in fact, Marlin and I did a swap a few years ago, and
I got the best of the deal.
he did. But that the records were given to me, so it's not like I spent a lot of money for them. But I needed the copies of the 2 Mysterians albums for the display,
Oh,
and I had a couple 45s that were given to me by the drummer from Tano and the Renegades that were recorded with Kalmbach. But the cool thing about the second one is that Dick Wagner produced it, and both sides were written by Dick Wagner.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, Easy Way Out, and what's the other one? I can't think of it.
I can't think of it either.
But that was the song, The Easy Way Out, the one I couldn't think of when I was talking about the A Square collection. That was on there too. So it was fun to hear, what it sounded like with Dick Wagner doing those two songs. All right,
Wow.
yeah.
I didn't know
So,
about this.
what's the price tag on? Because those are on that's trying to think what the Sound of the Scene label,
Yeah.
right? Because Fenton, you didn't have to release it on Fenton. He gave you the choice. You could have your own vanity label.
Yeah, they had Poor Boy Pride on a different label too.
Right. And, they were kind of the house band of this teen club between Grand Ledge and Lansing called The Scene.
Yeah.
And I think probably the owner of The Scene might have paid for the session. And that's so he got to call it Sound of the Scene. So, come on. What's that worth now?
They're priceless.
Wow.
Not for sale.
Okay.
Is that your prized possession there, Marlin?
Pardon?
Is that your prized possession, or
It's one of them. I have a couple of Fenton ones that are really pricey, like the Jujus. You Treat Me Bad.
the Jujus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They were popular. And, the Shantays, I got theirs, the Sheffields, just, I got a guy in Detroit that comes up and looks at my records, but I got a box like that, Michigan stuff.
Yeah.
And I let him look through it and he says, "Is that for sale?" No.
Do you have any 45s by the Quests?
No, but I missed out here in B City.
They were pretty good band from the Grand Rapids area.
Yep.
And a lot of these bands are in the Michigan Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame. Tano and the Renegades, the Quests. Who else did we just mention?
Sheffields.
They're not in there yet.
Oh,
Um,
the Shantays.
no.
They're not there either.
Oh yeah, the Shantays are. What am I thinking of?
The
Who else did we
Jujus.
just mention?
The
Jujus, right. The Jujus are in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You Treat Me Bad, that's a pretty good little 45 also.
Yeah, I got that one.
Yeah. Well, did you ever see the movie that, William Malone? He's a Hollywood director. He did the remake of The House on Haunted Hill. Well, he did a horror film called Parasomnia. You didn't see that or hear of it? It's kind of interesting. He was in a band that also recorded when he lived in Michigan. He was in a band called The Plagues, and they recorded. He recorded, I think, 245s with Kalmbach and on Fenton, but he worked the Michigan rock and roll scene into the storyline of this horror film, and one of the main young male character in the movie is a record collector. He collects 45s. He's a big fan of the Bossman.
Yeah.
And he's looking for a Bossman single.
My friend,
No, it's later She something.
baby girl.
No, it's not Baby Boy or, oh boy, I can't think of it.
Tell him to get a hold of me. I got duplicates.
Anyways, he, there's part of the plot line that he's looking for this 45. And so he worked a little bit of that Michigan music in there, and he even got a hold of Dick when Dick was living in Arizona. And he re-recorded a Boss Man song for the ending credits.
Really? What show was that again?
Parasomnia. You can probably find it, maybe even on YouTube. I don't know.
The Plagues, they're a cheap 45. I don't have the one on Fenton
Oh, okay.
because they put two of them out. But the one on Fenton sold for over $2,000.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and those guys morphed into Plain Brown Rapper.
Yeah.
At least some of the
Yeah.
Malone had left
West
the band
Side
at that
Story.
point.
Story.
Yeah. All right. Wow. Fascinating stuff.
Keith, you got any Michigan collectibles that you know of in your 78s there that you can
York.
you can brainstorm?
There you go. York.
There's one there, but
Yeah.
start out the early years.
We seen him at Green Bay, remember?
One of the York brothers?
Yep.
Okay.
Songwriter from Saginaw, Charles K. Harris,
Oh,
and it's an
after
Edison.
the ball.
This is actually Hello Central, Give Me Heaven, but yes, he wrote that too. Exactly.
Yeah, it's in my first book.
Okay. Yeah, and this is a
Story.
Edison 2-minute wax cylinder from recorded in the 1903 or so. If you feel the inside of it, you've never seen one of these before. It actually is a form of wax.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
You know Charles Harrison?
Yeah.
Right now, I looked him up yesterday
feel it
on
inside
YouTube,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and he came up and talks.
That's
Oh,
Actually,
Yeah.
the real Charles Harrison.
Yeah, I saw a little film clip
you
of him.
mentioned the Quest.
See, he lived in
in
Saginaw,
the States now.
and he was a bellboy at the Bancroft Hotel.
I offered
Then he moved to
$1,800
Milwaukee,
for him. She
and
sold it for
apparently
$2,000.
that's where he
All three
wrote
of
the
them.
song.
Three?
After the
All
ball.
three of their 45s?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, and they're really, you know,
He
those
was- he
45s
wrote a
hold
lot of
up. They still
songs,
sound
I
good. You know?
understand.
Yeah, he
In fact,
was
a lot of
quite a
those
prolific
bands, I mean,
songwriter at the
you know,
time.
geez.
And this recording is by, Byron G. Harlan.
That's Thomas Edison.
Yep.
Right there.
Yes, it is. Yeah, these are that's the early 2-minute wax cylinder, and then the later version of the cylinder was called a blue amberol, which had a plaster core and a celluloid outer part, and these are a lot more durable. These here, the wax ones, you could crush them in your hand; they're so soft. Where these are a lot more durable. These actually play quite well. This is also another Michigan. This is a Michigan artist, old-time fiddler, Jasper Bisbee, who was from kind of northwestern Michigan.
Okay.
The way I found out about him is there was an old man lived across from me on Birch Run Road out in the Millington area. Was I think his great uncle, this guy was, and as I said, I collect old 78s and cylinders. Oh, have you ever heard of anybody named Bisbee? I said, yeah, Bisbee, that sounds familiar. And then I started looking at my stuff, and then I started collecting his. And he was a favorite of, because Henry Ford liked old-time fiddle players. So he was a favorite of Henry Ford's, and he paid for him and his daughter to travel to the Edison recording laboratories to record these. And they recorded on cylinder and on diamond disc at that point, because it was in the early 20s. I think this was from 1923, I believe.
Wow.
So,
Of course, you just wonder if these would be better than those thick records. Those thick Edison records. I mean, it's a lot lighter.
you're talking about the diamond discs, the real thick ones, yeah.
That's what a diamond disc is? I was going to ask you what that
I
was.
should have brought one of those along.
I never heard of that.
I had a
They're
whole bunch of
quarter-inch
them
thick.
at one time,
Okay.
and this guy in Florida bought them,
Oh.
and he paid for the shipping. And, I can only put 3 or 4 or 5 in one box because they're so heavy.
They are. The idea with those is, well, first of all, Edison believed in vertical recording. In other words, the regular 78 and what we think of as normal is a lateral recording. The sound groove is cut laterally, where his was vertically. So even though it was up and down, Hill and Dale method, as they called it. And he firmly believed that was the better method. And the problem was with vertical recordings, they tended to have trouble with the style skating on the record, unless it was absolutely flat. So that's why he made them so thick. The core is actually wood composition material. The outer part is an early form of bakelite. He called it condensite, but same thing. And it made for a perfectly flat surface, and they're quite durable. I actually was at an antique phonograph show over in Union, Illinois, probably 20-some years ago. There was a guy who bought a stack of them. He had them in his arms. He dropped them on a cement floor, and none of them broke. I mean, they're so tough, diamond discs. Or if you would have dropped a stack of regular shellac 78s, they would have been picking up the pieces,
Right.
I think he made a little chip out of one of them.
Probably ruined his whole day right there.
Yeah.
When did Edison go out of business with the recording stuff?
About 1929. He started with the cylinder. Of course, he was the first one, but cylinders were the only format up until, around the turn of the last century, around 1898, 1900. They started doing the discs, and but he kept with the cylinders, and then there was quite a battle of formats at that point, and he finally said, well, I guess I'm going to have to do a disc. So he wouldn't do what everybody else did. He had to invent his own. So that's when he came up with the diamond disc. Had to have a special player and everything else. And he kept going with the diamond discs up until the late 20s. One of his sons, I think I could be wrong, Charles Edison possibly, said, hey, we need to start producing lateral 78s that can be played on any phonograph like everybody else's. So the last year of the Edison Phonograph Company, they actually made a regular 78. But and then the cylinders, he kept making the cylinders even though the market was really diminished as far as demand. He kept making them. He wasn't going to abandon his old customers out in the boondocks or whatever, so he kept making them right up until the end, right up until 1929.
Wow. When
the Depression hit and they just shut the whole thing off.
Where would you buy one like a cylinder back then?
Oh, back then?
Yeah.
Well, you had phonograph stores and that type of thing.
Was there phonograph stores?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like places that sell phonographs and
pretty colorful.
Furniture stores.
On the wall,
furniture store.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I just wonder where they would sell it. You wouldn't think of there be a record store back then,
Yeah, they kind of were. I mean,
Okay.
I think they sold records and phonographs.
Yeah,
And cylinders.
hardware stores. Yeah. Well, you think the 45 era. I mean, they used to sell records. Well, you know where the Park Avenue grocery is?
Yeah.
They had records that they would sell there. And I know I worked at Ray's Food Fair. They sold them at Ray's Food Fair.
Shoppers Fair used to sell them baggies full of them.
Yeah, I mean, they were all over the place.
I got many 45s at Shoppers
They
Fair.
put like a Beach Boy in the front, and all the rest of them were junk. Yeah, but you were mentioning the plagues. I asked Bob Hughes if he had any records or if they ever put one out. He said he doesn't remember, but I got him on Ferris wheel.
Yeah, there was. That wasn't the plagues that Hughes was in, was it? What was?
Paupers.
The paupers, right?
Yeah.
I knew it started with
That's
P.
what it was, paupers.
Right.
Yeah, but I've never found a paupers 45 from Saginaw.
Did he say they had one?
He said he did. Nobody's ever found one.
Oh, okay.
But we did find a Ferris wheel. He's on that.
All right. Yeah, I remember the Ferris wheel. So I know you started collecting during the 60s. Did you then go back, or have you kind of delved into the 1950s, into the earlier rock and roll?
the Buddy
I mean,
Hollies,
I know you're a big fan of Jack Scott.
Yeah, oh yeah, Jack, yeah.
Okay. What do you have by Jack Scott that
Everything.
might...
All the stuff on Pony and all the stuff on Carlton and the Capitol and
Okay.
most of them are autographed.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a nice thing. Jack would do shows
Well, I went to
in
the funeral.
Michigan. Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, didn't I give you one of his?
You did. That's right. Okay. Exactly. All right.
He did a great Dean Martin.
I'll tell you what. Conway
He could
Twitty
sing
song.
Dean Martin just beautiful.
Wow.
I used to go see him because my friend Steve Nardella was his band leader at that time. And so I'd go to the gig with Steve, and all of a sudden he was doing Dean Martin tunes, like I can't think of it right now.
Sway?
Twitty also.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
It's only make believe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
I wish he would put that on record.
Yeah.
You can only see it on YouTube where he does it down in Detroit. We used to go down there when they do that birthday bash in Warren. Yep. But his drummer listened to some of his acetates that he had in the basement. He says, oh, he should have put them out. Yep. Yeah, Jack was good.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Is his wife doing anything with his recordings or?
No.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
Jack
good.
pretty much lived off his royalties. I don't.
Oh,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm not sure if he even had a
You know.
a day job.
Well, when they were on tour, he got mad at Dick. Well, Dick Clark got mad at him because the guys were teasing him about his girlfriend was running around on him. So he left the show to go to Detroit to see if she was. And Dick Clark got upset.
Yeah, I talked to Steve Nardell about that, and he said that Jack felt that Dick Clark actually kind of submarined him, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, hurt his career big time.
Yep. But it was just a bunch of guys teasing him. You know, they were playing in Windsor, and they were teasing Jack that his girlfriend was running around on him. And he left the show.
Oh man.
Wow.
Oh.
I don't think Jack Scott is in Rock and Roll Hall
No,
of Fame,
that's
is he?
Nope.
that's one of the
Connie Francis,
whoa.
Pat Boone, the Monkees,
Wow.
Rock and Roll Hall of Shame.
well. I'm not sure I agree with Pat Boone and Connie
Yeah.
Francis, but Jack Scott should
if it
be there.
wouldn't have been for Pat Boone, who would have heard of Little Richard
Well,
slipping in the slide?
yeah, well, we'll agree to disagree on Pat Boone's role in rock and roll.
And then he put out that gold record of all Elvis's hits. You know, he did some rock and roll. He's
Well.
got a 45 out.
I know,
Called
he didn't
Beach
do it very
Girl.
well.
Well, he's got one called Beach Girl.
Oh, I've heard that, yeah.
That's good.
Well, that was produced by,
And Wilson, Brian Wilson.
yeah, was it Brian Wilson and who's the other guy who kind of sat in for Brian Wilson?
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of his name now.
I can't think
Oh
of it.
boy, it's awful.
That's a good 45.
Yeah, it is pretty good. Well, it sounds like a Beach Boys.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right.
You were saying, Marlin, too, that you have a lot of autographed.
Oh, yeah.
Is that did you aim for that in your collection? Is it not,
I've always liked autographs.
Oh, yeah.
When we used to go to the rockabilly shows in Green Bay, they would all sign autographs, and I got tons of them.
yeah.
As a matter of fact, when Jack was there, he had a beard. A lot of guys didn't recognize him. And I said, "Hey, Jack, can I have your autograph?" And he was signing a whole bunch of stuff for me. And then when I turned around, there was a lineup from here past the bathroom. People saying, "That's Jack Scott, that's Jack Scott."
Really? That's incredible. Well, my autographing started like a CD collection and vinyls, 33s, you know, but or a book here and there, you know, get that autograph. But to have the 45s, or Keith, do you have any 78s autographs at all? Or?
Yeah,
Do
actually.
you know the movie actor James Dean?
I've heard of him. Yeah.
I got his autograph 9 times.
Really? Did you get to meet him?
I'm friends with his family.
Oh, wonderful. Wow.
So,
Is
Well,
this
when
the
they-
first rock and roll record, you think?
a lot of people consider it to
I
me.
know.
Yeah. My choice is Good Rockin' Tonight by Wynonie Harris, but that's the subject of the new video.
Oh, really?
Yes, we play a little bit of Ike Turner's, but of course, since Bill Haley is highlighted, we play Bill Haley's cover of that, kind of a hillbilly cover of Rocket 88. But yeah, that's a classic recording there.
I played Safe by Safe. Some people, or many people, say it's the first rock and roll recording
Yeah.
So Wade autographed that one
on his 100th birthday.
on his 100th birthday.
Wade Maynard?
Yep. Yeah, I actually
I got
knew-
to meet his brother J.E.
Right here in
before
Bay City,
he
yeah.
died. Yeah, we played at the University of Chicago Folk Festival in 1971,
He's a
and
old rockabilly
he was on
singer.
the bill.
Fred was supposed to do
We
another
have
chorus.
a show coming up with Lafayette.
Oh, do you?
He's been here. Yep.
Okay.
It's not quite out yet, but he was about
He's
5 or
very
6
good
back.
quick. He's getting up there in age.
Lafayette was wonderful. We've definitely hit a lot of collectible Michigan artists, that's for sure. And tell us a little bit about that one, Keith.
Wade Maynard?
Yeah.
Wade Maynard was he was a banjo player originally from North Carolina. Like all the major banjo innovators, like Earl Scruggs, Wade Maynard, Charlie Poole, were all from North Carolina. And he first recorded with his brother J.E., who you said you met, back in the 1930s. on Bluebird label. Well, basically RCA Victor. Bluebird was the budget label for RCA Victor at that time.
Oh.
And also Montgomery Ward, there was a few, but same masters. But him and his brother J.E. Recorded, and Wade kind of broke off on his own eventually, but his two-finger banjo style was considered kind of a bridge between the old-time clawhammer style or frailing banjo that the old-timers like. Think of Grandpa Jones or somebody like that. They played the clawhammer style, where Wade did the two-finger style, and then Earl Scruggs, the modern bluegrass style, is the three-finger style. And he actually, one of the things is he performed for Franklin Delano Roosevelt at the White House. Wade Maynard did.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's just amazing. And I knew him. I knew him and his wife Julia, and several of his kids. Actually, I think I knew all of them. Not as much his daughter, but his son Frank lives on the old homestead down in North Carolina. His son Kelly was living with his mother and dad later in life. Now, Wade lived to be 104 years old. He was still performing and still sounding really good at 101. 102. I think the last time I saw him, he was 102. They had an annual birthday party for him down in the Flint area, down in Fenton in the later years. And it would bring different artists in there playing old-time and bluegrass music, and then him and his wife would take the stage, and it was a very special thing.
Wow. How did you come upon all that?
Well, I'm a member of the Michigan Bluegrass Music Association, and he was also a member, so I would see them there occasionally and knew people that knew them and that type of thing. And
Wow.
There was a band from the Flint area called the Old South, Marge and Mel Hammond, and Marge really was a nice person, and she saw that I got invited to his birthday parties when they were little small private affairs, and then when they started renting a big auditorium type place or a hall, then it was more or less public was invited, but originally it was just a private thing. So she saw that I was always invited, and I really appreciated that.
Wonderful. Wow.
Where were these photos of Wade taken?
In Fenton, at the Fenton Community Center.
Okay, those are some really nice shots of him.
Thank you.
How do you display your stuff?
Well, this is just stuck in a 78 album. I do have some
do you
records
have
on
a
the wall.
wall?
I do have some, like my Vogue picture discs are hanging on the wall. There's some unusual labels and that I have hanging on the wall.
Yeah, see, I got my albums in frames and all hanging on the wall. Not all of them.
You don't have enough room.
I know.
We're definitely going to take
Marlin
some photos.
has, what would you
some of
call that? It's not really, is it a man cave?
Yeah.
It's a music man cave.
And that's yours, Keith?
Yeah, that's some of them.
Yeah, it's really neat.
I'm going to have you forward me a few of these for the
Okay,
podcast. 'Cause
sure.
For those of you listening to this podcast, we're going to take some pictures of what's being passed around here. Keith brought a slew of 78s and some cylinders and photos and whatever else we can do here. We're
That copy
add
of
to it.
Rocket 88 you've got
Yes.
there on chest.
Yes.
I mean,
You're
that's
talking about
like
autographs?
near mint, isn't it? Pretty
You know,
close.
it's not. It's funny
There's
because
a
it
little
was
bit of wear on the label.
it was
but-
great at poor condition. That's why I got it as cheap as I did about a year ago. And but it's definitely not in poor condition.
Wow.
It has some wear, but it's very playable.
Where'd you come across that?
One of the record auctions I bid in.
Wow, that's fabulous.
The 4 or 5 78s I came across today, I put them on Discogs, and I didn't have a chance to listen to them, so I put grading by visual only.
Okay.
Because it's so hard with 78s. Even you play them, and sometimes they'll look really good, and then just, you get that swishy sound.
It depends on why they look, because like if there's groove wear, then yeah, they're going to sound bad. Now if it's because they were kept without sleeves and they're all scuffed and scraped, then those usually play quite well because
Right.
they're not worn out.
Right.
Marlon, you were saying something about
Yeah,
autographs?
you were asking about autograph. I have Buddy Holly's, Richie Valens, the
Wow.
Big Boppers, Elvis.
Really?
You know,
You went and dug some up there, eh? Did you get them personally or did you track them
no, I
down?
bought them at auction house in Vegas.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, we're gonna definitely put some photos out so those listening can see.
Well,
what we're
you
talking
had
about
mentioned James Dean also, and when they did the film with about James Dean's life at the State Theater, Marlin brought his collection of memorabilia over there and displayed it in the lobby of the state. It was really
I
cool.
don't remember you being there.
Oh yeah, I don't think we knew each other
Probably,
at that
well,
time.
First time I seen
I
it was
think-
at the trivia show.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm not even sure if I saw you. I probably saw you that night, but anyways, yeah. So yeah, we got to know each other shortly thereafter.
Well, thanks for sharing some of this stuff, Keith. What else did you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
Of course, not all of it's Michigan, but here is this record will be 100 years old in a few months, but it's the very first recording of C.C. Rider by Ma Rainey,
SEE. Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
1924, October of 1924.
it's not Mitch Ryder, eh?
No, this is where it came. This is where it all came from, though.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
And here's Matchbox Blues by Blind Lemon Jefferson.
The OK label.
All right.
And of course, that was
The roots of Carl Perkins and later the Beatles.
That's a heavy one. Woo.
And here's one on the trumpet label from Jackson, Mississippi, "Dust My Broom" by Elmore James.
And they say Elmo on there.
Yep, that's his very first recording too.
Wow.
Yeah, that was done by the original Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I got Ernest Tubb.
Oh, there
I
we
just-
go.
Elmo.
Decade.
Mean Mama Blues.
Used to have that one.
Do you know Al Vincent in Lansing?
No, I don't.
He has lots of 70s.
Okay, that'd be somebody to meet. There's one Bob Wills and his Texas Playboys on Vocalion, and anything of his on Vocalion I go for because it's always really good.
What about on Conqueror?
Yep.
That sounds like a cheap label, but
Yeah,
I just found one today, a Bob Wills on Conqueror, and I can't find a listing for it.
I think it's basically Columbia at that point.
Ah,
This is very interesting. This is the song that Johnny Cash covered.
Cocaine Blues.
Yep. And it's by Roy Hogshead. It's from 1948. And it's 47 or 48. And it has an accordion on it. It's very lighthearted, upbeat, Took a shot of cocaine. He's just happy-go-lucky kind of thing,
Roy Hogshead
Yeah.
with
yes.
instrumental trio, it says.
Yeah, doesn't he shoot his woman
Yeah.
in Cocaine Blues?
Oh, yeah.
I've got this one.
He's just happy about it.
Oh, yeah. He's like,
no.
considering the dark subject matter of the song, it's very,
Okay.
Very up about it. That's funny. Oh wow! Well, cool. Thanks for bringing those on here. That's
Yeah, that's
incredible.
fantastic.
Where has your collection taken you? I mean, are you a worldwide collector looking around on the internet, or have you traveled for stuff? Or
I've traveled a little bit, but not too much. I mean, mostly from home, lately. But I go to a few record sales. If I'm antiquing, I go out junking, every once in a while.
Freddie does that once in a while too.
Hey.
Yep.
Yep.
Do you have any Bill Haley records, either with the Saddleman or I guess those were the earlier ones or the Saddleman?
I didn't bring that. I did put
We
one on.
reissued that on CD at School Kids.
Really?
His early records.
Let's see. I did. Well, on the CD, that I wasn't really sure how we were going to do things today, so I put all this stuff on a CD. But
He's going to let me take a CD home just if we want to sample some tunes for the podcast.
Oh yeah, sure.
"Crazy Man Crazy" by Bill Haley and Haley's Comets on Essex.
Yeah, the first
1953.
rock and roll record to make the Billboard charts.
Oh, wow.
Of any rock and roll record to make Billboard charts was that one.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think what he also covered some of this stuff. I've been doing a video series on the birth of Michigan rock and roll for the museum.
Okay.
We've got a neat little theater. You should take a peek in there on your way out.
I'd love to.
Yeah, it's only seats about 15 people, but it's very dark and it's got seats that were in the original State Theater, the carpeting from the original State, the lobby lamps, and
Nice.
so. Anyways, yeah, we've got a few things on. On Bill Haley in this latest one, and yeah, he did a lot of firsts. I mean, he was one of his songs was the first rock and roll song ever used on a network television program.
Oh, okay.
Plus, of course, Rock Around the Clock, the first number one rock and roll song, the first rock and roll act to ever tour Europe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Blackboard Jungle.
yeah. All right. Yeah. And then on a major motion picture, it was the first rock and roll song used on the soundtrack also. Yeah, we've got a little clip from Blackboard Jungle that we put in there.
When's that come out, Gary?
1955.
Yeah, well, we're going to premiere the video on Member Night on February 8th. And then I'm going to do a second Saturday talking about the whole philosophy behind doing this series of short videos on Michigan rock and roll history. That's Saturday at 1 o'clock on the second Saturday thing. So
This Saturday?
February 10th.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Excellent. Do you when you're searching for 78s, Keith? Do you is it one particular, or is this something that catches your eye anymore?
I just go through auction lists, and if I see something I'm interested in, then I write it down, then I bid on it. But I'm not a real high dollar guy, so
Yeah, you're looking for a good deal.
yeah, I'm always looking for a good deal.
Yeah.
Just you can spend thousands on some of these, and it's not in my budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you search anymore, Marlin? Do you still collect?
Record shows
You go to all of them?
all the way from New Jersey to California.
Do you really? Still?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Since I had my stroke, I don't know.
Well, you were up through last year then.
Yep.
Still going.
But
And you do the same thing, right? You're trying to find the best deal possible.
yes,
Yeah,
oh
I mean,
yeah.
yeah, that just makes
You
sense.
can't buy all expensive ones.
Right.
Right. When you're out collecting and all those, are you looking for just Michigan music, or is it something that catches your eye too?
Good garage music that hits my ear.
Garage music. So it could be any state or any country.
Texas is really good. Wisconsin's a good Nasoma label.
Does he put out a CD?
They're really
too?
good.
Yes,
I doubt
it was Bitter Request Show.
Here in Michigan, of course, you got Great Lakes, you got Hideout, you got Fenton.
This is
But
probably
there's all kinds of
most expensive
independent
one, but-
labels that put out good records, like United also did garage rock.
Wow. The garage rock I'm familiar with early on. Gary, let me check out a copy of
Yeah.
the Fenton stuff. Right?
Well,
That
garage
is
rock-
wonderful.
Kind of started after the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan.
That kind of marked the territory you're
all the
after.
young kids seen them and said, "We can do this."
Uh-huh.
And a lot
Were
of
you
them-
were you a musician?
No,
No? Keith, were you ever playing?
No,
the only thing I play is a stereo.
Yeah, me too.
I play
right.
the phonograph with
Yeah.
the crank.
Well, along with that, thing with the Beatles, it was in conjunction with the teen clubs,
Yeah,
because he had all these teen clubs all over Michigan, but not just Michigan, it was all over
All
the
over.
United States.
yeah.
And that was the opportunity for these young bands to play. And you could play probably
Oh,
just
we had
about every
Daniel
weekend.
Again, Grand Canyon, Bay City Roller Rink.
Yeah. And plus high school dances.
Yeah.
I mean, there were all kinds of opportunities. I mean, nobody was making a lot of money, but you had the opportunity to go out and play. And, a lot of times maybe you could make a 45 and sell it at your gigs. And that's where a lot of this stuff came from.
Like the
So a
Bossman.
lot of them were never played on the radio. The Bossman, that was
The
different because
Bossman went to New York, and the guy told him, "You sound too much like the
the
Beatles,"
Beatles, yes.
and they did.
In Marlin, you've lived around here for your whole life?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Keith, are you from around here your whole life?
Millington area.
But Michigan?
Yeah, Michigan my entire life. Yes.
Okay. So neither of you came from out of state with this collector's mindset. You're both local and
Yeah.
fantastic.
Well,
Wow.
Keith, you were probably too young for the teen club thing. That was by the board. I don't know how old you are, but
I'll be 65 in a couple of years.
Yeah,
Or a couple months, excuse me.
Seeing Pete Woodman from the Boston
yeah,
went to my school.
because that was a thing that it was kind of between 1964 and roughly 1968. Everything started to fade away. They started to close. Was it like 4 or 5 years? And that's where a lot of this garage rock, all of it basically came from.
The wife had Bob Seger play at her school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Seeger played here.
What he played?
You know, they
Hidden
used to have
Hollow?
dances at the Armory.
Yeah.
You know, this was an armory before it became a museum. So,
Whenever he tours, he comes to Saginaw.
oh yeah.
Actually, the first
Yeah.
gig of the tour.
Yeah. I've seen him 4 times doing this last tour.
Oh,
Now, Freddie, your collection is usually a generally up for sale type collection, but you have a tremendous amount of records. What would you say are your most collectible pieces yourself?
well, you never know. I mean, who would have thought a person from Bay City would be the biggest selling record I ever sold?
Timothy
You know,
Ward?
Yeah, Timothy
Timothy. Yeah.
Got 800 out for it.
It's amazing.
with 2 M's.
Yeah, we had him on a show. Yeah.
And that was, I mean, I never would have thought there was a label on it, like a price thing, 20 cents.
Oh, yeah.
So,
That was before your record store then.
no, well, it was at my record store, but no wonder why I went out of business. But so I couldn't sell it for 20 cents at that time.
But now, yeah. And what do you keep though, Freddie? What are you keeping that you're like, I can't part with it? It's really
Well, mostly all the blues things that I've been involved with, which quite a few, and about 15 years ago, I started collecting steel drum music. So I have a huge collection of calypso and steel drum music,
And you were in Ann Arbor during some of that, right?
all of it.
All of it. Did you start that festival? Was
What?
was it
What
a festival?
No, well, we used to play it because I played with a Caribbean group and we had 2 steel
I
drummers.
thought you said at one point
But-
there was a festival down there.
Well, there used to be Frog Island.
Oh, okay.
You know, Trinidad Tripoli played there.
That's it. Yeah.
But that was in Ypsilanti,
Okay.
next door, Ann Arbor.
Mike, you've got a massive collection, but you buy a lot of current.
Yeah.
When did you start your collection?
When I was like 13.
Do you have any of that still?
My very first album I bought was Jimi Hendrix' Cry of Love. And Jethro Tull, Aqualung was a early one, but it progressed from there. Yeah.
And you just have an archive of everything, pretty much,
Yeah,
rock and
I've
roll
saved
based.
them all. I wish I would have saved all my 78s.
Yeah.
My God, we had, Hey Jude and
On
just
78?
all the hits from the late 60s on 78.
You must mean 45s, not 78.
Yeah.
Okay.
45s, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm like, hey, Jude, on
I
78.
was going to say, wow.
Yeah, Hey Jude on 78.
Well, you know,
Pretty
1964.
valuable.
they claimed in some of the developing
But
countries
we've been
that
talking so much 78.
they claimed that there were 78s pressed really late in some remote areas of Africa and India. I've heard rumors of that occasionally.
Well, Robert Crumb put out a 78 red vinyl, red shellac, a number of years ago. You know the song that
Yeah.
I'm talking about,
Um,
I'm sure. I don't know if I want to repeat it.
Go ahead, Fred.
My Girl's Pussy.
okay.
Okay. Well, it was red. All right.
Yeah, red vinyl.
Interesting. Who would have thought that I came up tonight here? All right.
All right, Fred.
Is that in your collection, Gary?
No, that is not. That
Robert
is
Crumb
not.
and his
Okay, in case we
What
get
were they
bumped
called?
off YouTube, we'll be blaming Fred.
Robert
Wow.
Crumb, yeah.
What year was that from?
I'd say, well, in the 70s or
70s.
80s.
That was a
I had my
78.
record store, so
Wow.
I have
around
a
that time.
vinyl 78 that Joe Bassard recorded. Screwdriver slide or something like that. It's a slide, bottleneck slide guitar thing, but of him playing.
Oh, really?
And it's a vinyl.
Yeah, vinyl 78. It's something he had made.
Oh, just as a special thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Thompson Square or something. That is a
Did it play it at 33 and a third or 40?
78.
Oh, you had to put on a 78
Yeah.
player.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I think you still use the microgroove stylus because it was still,
Your collection, Gary, I mean, obviously you put together the Hall of Fame here, so
Well, I don't know if I wouldn't call myself a collector.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of records.
yeah.
well,
What's your most favorite ones? Are they here, or is it something that you have at home that's precious to you?
Boy, I do have the John Lennon, the original John Lennon rock and roll album that was out on Adam 8.
That's a good one.
That's pretty rare.
Yes.
I do have the God Save the Queen 45 by the Sex Pistols with a picture sleeve.
Well,
I think that one's pretty rare.
It is.
Yeah.
Cool.
But most of it's just the groups I liked. A ton of Beatles records, and I was a big Elvis fan, and Rolling Stones.
you still have your earliest records, or
Well, I don't know if I mentioned to Keith. Yeah, I've still got some of the 78s. I framed them, like I've got on one picture. I had Jerry Lee Lewis, Great Balls of Fire, Chuck Berry, Rock and Roll Music, and Get a Job by the Silhouettes, and they're really good shape. And then another one I had Ricky Nelson, that Stood Up, Waiting in School, 78. I'm trying to think what else is on that. Everly Brothers, Wake Up Little Susie, and maybe one, At first I didn't realize that Buddy Holly and the Crickets it was the same
All together?
band, the same person. It wasn't until I bought my first 45s. And that's, yeah. So, because he didn't even really have his name, and it was,
The Crickets.
it was, well, yeah, but a lot of his songwriting, he used
Yeah.
Hardin
Yeah.
as a songwriter. So, you didn't have that much information on your records. You I always looked at who was the songwriter, and sometimes you bought a record because of the songwriters. Lieber and Stoller, for example.
yeah.
Later on,
Right.
Jerry Goffin and Carole King, and
That's a place to visit the surf ballroom.
oh yeah.
Yes.
Well,
That's nice.
my dear friend Benny McGee just passed away in late December, and Benny was the guy who really discovered that Tom Cedarberg had that 8mm footage of the Ellen Freed tour that hit Flint back in 1958, and it had the only color footage ever shot of Buddy Holly playing live. I mean, there's only about 40 seconds,
Right.
but he had short
Jerry
little
Lee
shots
Lewis.
of Jerry Lee Lewis, Frankie
Screaming
Lyman,
Jay Hawkins.
what's that? Chuck Berry was on
Berry.
there.
Yeah.
The Diamonds. It was a typical Alan Freed production. You had about 15 different acts. Everybody had a short period of time. The headliners probably got maybe to play 3 or 4 songs. A lot of people probably only had one song, and just kind of depending on the pecking
When
order.
you showed that film here, Mike and I didn't know what they were going to do. We had to pry it on Tom.
Yeah. Yeah, Tom, he's just
Yeah,
a very
he's awful.
quiet guy,
Yeah.
But yeah, it was real interesting. Benny, Tom McGee had went out to the Surf Ballroom every year. They would have a concert, sort of a memorial for Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper. And they would bring in a lot of the oldies acts. Del Shannon played there, and Buddy Knox, and
I made
a
the
whole
wife
bunch of
walk
people.
out through the snow to get a fresh picture of the grass site.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Benny was telling, Tom had his Teddy Bear Records at that time
Oh, yeah.
down on Lafayette, and Benny was in there kind of sorting through the racks, and he just happened to mention he had been to the Surf Ballroom, and that's where Tom said, I've got some footage I took back in 1958. Tom was, I think, 12 years old,
Yeah.
and his dad was Al Cedarberg, was he a representative? Congressman from
Congressman,
Michigan. And anyways, Cedarberg had given Tom a camera, that he could use for family pictures, and he brought that to the concert. They were sitting up in the
Balcony.
I'm not sure it was a mezzanine.
IMA, right on the balcony.
Yeah, and he was right in front, so he didn't have anybody in front of him, and it was only 8 minutes. Those little reels that are silent, of course, and but Rick Mixter came in, and he shot it on video. We played the 8mm, and he made a video of it so that we could show it at a second Saturday.
Wow.
And I kind of presented and told the story of Tom, and this, of course, the Buddy Holly concert in Flint. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's cool.
Paul
Wow.
McCartney got a hold of it.
Yeah,
And Paul McCartney, as generous as he is, he gave Tom 2 copies of a VHS tape.
but the sad thing is he didn't give him name credit.
Yep. No
So
credit.
all they said was, and they used clips of Buddy Holly, of course, because the whole video was the real Buddy Holly story. And I had run into the Crickets at Green Bay in this Rockabilly Festival, and they did not like the Gary Busey movie, The Buddy Holly Story.
Yep.
They just said it was factually inaccurate. They had nothing good to say about it. And I guess McCartney felt the same way. They wanted to do a documentary that told a true story. So anyways, it's a very good documentary. And once they discovered that Tom had this footage, they used it, used all the Buddy Holly stuff. They used some clips of Chuck Berry,
Yep.
Jerry Lee
Jerry
Lewis. I'm not sure, it might have been
Screaming Jay Hawkins.
yeah, okay, a couple other people. But then they just said from a fan
In Michigan.
in Michigan.
Oh.
They didn't even give him Bay City credit,
Oh.
So that was too bad. And then when they sent it back, they didn't rewind the film.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when they rewound it, it was all backwards, on the reel.
Dang.
And then
we've
Tom,
heard this
what was
story.
it? He had to agree not to
Not to release it to
for
anybody else.
2 years or
Yeah.
something like that. It was part of the deal.
Oh.
Incredible.
And they never gave him anything money-wise.
No, really.
Nothing.
Wow.
Just 2 VCR
2
tapes of it.
VHS tapes.
I thought he got paid something.
No,
he didn't get paid. Oh my
Not a
gosh.
cent.
Yeah. All right.
Marlin, how did you? At what year or how old were you when you said I'm a collector? Was it from early
I was
on, or
17 when
Yeah.
I seen the Beatles, but I collected a few records before the Beatles. But when I seen the Beatles, I
Yeah,
was
but
hooked.
at what point did you say I need to collect? Though I mean, you probably had records. Did you just
Well,
keep
I just-
keep buying them? And you
Just kept buying them,
yeah. Then you realized at
get
some
rid of
point,
few,
yeah,
buy more.
yeah.
But when did
But-
you start really going out and
Oh,
like searching, like you're doing right now for Michigan 45s, where you are?
probably 25 years ago, maybe
Okay.
more.
Okay.
Uh,
You knew you had such a great collection. You're like, I guess I'm a collector now, and you went for more, and you
Yeah.
started digging.
it was the Elvis thing, the Beatles thing. Now it's Michigan rock and roll. I collect other garage rock. But
Yeah.
Michigan is my focal point.
Well, that's where you're from. That's wonderful. When I first met Keith, it was the first thing you brought up to me, and it may have been a collecting show. I don't remember where we met or what it was, but you were like, I collect 78s, and you wanted to tell me all about it. And I'm like, I got to retain this for something somewhere along the way.
So when did you start, like, becoming a collector? I mean, obviously, you must have just been somebody who loved music and bought records and so on. When did it become kind of a collection thing?
Yeah, it kind of like gradually happened, I guess, because, I mean, I grew up with old records being around. I grew up more on country, old traditional country. And I remember my mother having the Grand Ole Opry on an old tube radio when I was a kid, back in the 60s and listening to all that. And she had her 78s of, like, say, 40s, 50s country. And my grandparents had old Victrola out in one of the old buildings out in the back that had a lot of 1920s jazz and dance band type stuff, hot dance stuff in there. And I developed a liking for that music even as a young kid. Now, as far as formally collecting, I don't know. Probably 20 some years ago, I just slowly started. Somewhere I found an auction listing, and the auctions I do are not eBay type stuff. They're all, you send out a catalog like this, you send in the bids, and it's kind of a silent auction type thing. And I became a member of the Michigan Antique Phonograph Society. That's another thing that kind of, because they were not only into old phonographs, they're into the old music too. Michigan Antique Phonograph Society was wonderful. They would have monthly meetings at a collector's house, and 99% of the meetings were about music. Somebody would put on a program about a certain artist or certain whatever, and some of them were very professionally done too. That point, and then I started finding record auction listings, and then one led to another, and then I don't know.
I think I met you in the 90s.
Yeah, I think it was at a blues concert over in Frankenmuth.
In Frankenmuth, okay.
Yeah.
And you said you collected some blues 78s, and you said, and I found you were a collector at that point.
Yeah, Harry Basenecker and Teddy Gelster used to put on some concerts over there, over in Frankenmuth, and I know that's where I met you.
Okay.
I vaguely remember the exact day, but I do remember that's where it was at.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Wow. Well, I just knew you were a collector from back then, and I'm glad that you guys are here.
Yeah. Do you still have some of your mom's old country?
Oh, yeah. I have all of her. She's still alive yet. She's 92 years old. She
Oh,
lives
good
next
for
door.
her. Was she a Hank Williams fan?
Oh, yes.
Okay, because I'm a big Hank Williams fan.
Hank Williams. Ernest Tubb is her biggest one.
Oh,
though.
okay.
Ernest Tubb, Carl Smith. Hank Williams. And I actually have Hank Williams on Sterling now. His first, his very first recordings were on Sterling. Those are the hard ones. I also have Ernest Tubb on Bluebird, which those are hard to find too. I finally got one or two of those. I think two of each. Muddy Waters on Aristocrat.
Ooh.
So I slowly over the years, again, because I don't have the huge amounts of money to put out, I find them at the right time and I grab them.
Like a true collector.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I collect a little bit too, Marlin. But it's mainly been Michigan music, and being a writer in the 90s, I was sent so many CDs, it just became a CD thing at that point. And these guys have been in my garage, and there's over 14,000 CDs alphabetized around my garage in a library. And then I have boxes that have not ever been put away since we've moved twice, or once or twice since then. But in the basement, there's over 2,000 vinyl in order down there too. But that's not really collection. It's more of when people were getting out of vinyl, they'd hand it to me, or I go to the stores right at the end. Like I lived in Midland for a little bit when I first went to college, and I would go to Mike Johnston's store, New Moon Records, and they'd have 99-cent vinyl, and I'd just scoop them up because no one was buying vinyl, and jazz, blues, and I think the first Michigan one that I got was actually New Moon. It was a 1983 Mike Brush solo vinyl, and I knew Mike, and I'm like, I didn't even know he had this, so I had to have it. And then I started thinking, who else is out there, and I knew Dick Wagner, and I knew all his stuff, and I've worked with Dick for a few years, but it's funny to think, here's stuff that I don't even know about because these people, and it's just every day for them, and you come across it in the store, and I found it fascinating to me. Yeah. So, every now and then I'll get something, and I'm at the point now, Mike's our archivist for the show, but what we like to do, I tell anybody that, that have been through bands, like if you guys have any old tapes or anything, let's start archiving. Freddie's got a good old collection on cassette. He recently started archiving at my house into my studio. I have a band, so I play music and I'm out, but I utilize my studio for this podcast, for recording music and for archiving. So actually, I was talking to Pete Woodman last week. He's finally thinking about coming over, so we might get something going. So he wished me happy birthday, and he says, I think we need to get together soon. So
he was a little disappointed that he didn't do the summer festival in Freeland. He always does.
Yeah, he was upset about that last year. We had him on the show just before that, and he actually the winter a year ago, last winter. And
but Butch Burton from County the Colony, he's still playing in Saginaw.
Is he?
Yep.
I know Butch too. Yep. Good old group of guys that were musician friends. Now, I mean, as I grew as a musician and a music writer, I've been writing music since high school. But college, I got peeled for Saginaw News and Bay City Times to be entertainment writer out of that before I got out of 2-year college, at Delta there. So it's just been I've always been intrigued by archiving, collections, and that whole thing. And now that we have the podcast, and I wanted to work a way in to find all of our friends that collect, and we know Freddie had record stores, and we had another guy that was going to be on the show tonight that currently owns a record store. I comes to find out he texted me. I told him Friday in it, and I did, and I'm like, so that was my bad.
All right.
But anyway, Fred had some record stores with some great backstories and stuff that he
used to go to
sells.
Fred's store when he was on Hamilton Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all these have come around full circle, and we definitely want to archive our stories, and not just that, but I think the collections are just as important as some of these rock and country and blues stories that we're having on our show. We cover all the music, polka, everything. But thank you guys for coming out here tonight.
It was awesome.
Appreciate your time. We're going to take some photos of everything. We want to get some pictures with you, and thanks for coming on the show.
That was great. Really. Learned a lot.
Yeah.
The MMHP is hosted on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and our own Libsyn podcast site. You can also search MMHP 989 on Facebook for up-to-the-minute information, as well as both Dr. J and Sir Fred's album picks of the week, posted every weekend. Don't forget to look for Mr. Mike's local music live series, posted frequently on MMHP's Facebook hub, as well as Scott's Mid-Mitten 15 from Harvest Canteen, featuring one-on-one interviews with Michigan music artists. You can connect with Scott on the web at scottbakermusic.com, Dr. J at michiganrockandrolllegends.com, Sir Fred at fredrife.com, Mr. Mike at YouTube at Mr. BT1. That's MRBTEE and the number 1. Brought to you by Michigan Rock and Roll Legends, located both inside the Bay County Historical Museum on Washington Avenue, as well as Scotty's Sandbar on Evergreen Drive at the Bay City Middle Grounds.
On behalf of our hosts, Dr. J, Sir Fred, Mr. Mike, and myself, this podcast wouldn't have been here without the voice of the MMHP, Mr. Eddie Switek, the generosity of the Bay County Historical Museum, which hosts the Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame, as well as this podcast, Mr. Alan Garcia, all of our guests, and especially to the listeners. We want to thank you.
Do you have any Excello records? A lot of the artists that I used to manage were on Excello. Lightning Slim,
It
Lazy Lester,
seems like I do have.
Baby Boy Warren.
In Saginaw, records and tapes galore.
So
Then
yeah,
there's
it
some
seems like I
CDs.
do. I'm trying to
Yeah,
think.
I love them.
When I
They
was
talk
at
to me
that
on
radio
Facebook
show,
every so
I
often.
bought.
Bill and Judy.
I haven't been there in a
Florida,
while,
bought
but
some nice
I love
records
those
down
too.
there.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
bought a $300 stack
And if,
of records. I got
if you
some
ever
good
get a
ones, though.
chance,
One
Jim
of them might have been
in
on Excel.
Midland,
Lightning Slim?
Wasteland Records.
Was he Excel?
I've been
He
there.
saves us 45 for me.
Really,
Does
that
he?
thing's like
Whenever he gets
almost,
45, he calls me.
E
I've been
condition.
there
It's beautiful.
Once.
Yeah.
And I bought some
Where'd you
stuff,
get it?
but
Down Michigan Antique Radio Club.
I
we've
can
been
Oh,
I
there.
go here in
because-
town to Jordan and I get even a better deal.
I was just wondering because I
Jordan
sold
used to say
He was supposed to be
needed
here.
money.
I screwed
Pay
up.
rent,
I looked
blah,
at
blah,
my email,
So
said it moved the time, and I said
1970,
7
when I
o'clock on
went Lightning
or
was
6
still
o'clock
alive, and I
on
never
Friday.
discovered
I don't know
them.
why I said
I
Friday.
got my
I
Jayhawk.
wrote down to
Jordan.
Excello Records,
They're
Nashboro
from us.
Records in
They're
Nashville,
from Bay City.
He's-
and
The
they
Jayhawkers.
sent me all of Lightning Slim?
They recorded for
Lazy Lester.
Deltron,
Yeah.
which
And
was
some
a
of
Bay
Slim
City
Harpo.
label.
Wow.
And
I don't know, Jay
some of them
Walker,
were
he went to
78s.
Delta when I was there.
Oh, wow.
And he was a
Brand
DJ
new.
at
Oh, wow.
WKNX.
An old stock.
So I don't know if he lived in Bay City. He might
I
have been a
sold them
Saginaw
a
guy.
couple
When
of
you
them
were
to
at
somebody.
Delta,
and
you
I can't
remember
remember
Neo
who. It was a
Diamond being
long,
there?
long time ago.
Yes, I do.
No
But
crowd.
you do what you have to do.
Nobody knew him
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah, well, that was real
I
early.
actually got a Memphis
Yep.
Jug Band.
You know,
down
he
here,
was
too.
just at
I've
Bang
been wanting one of
Records.
those for a
Yeah,
long
Cherry
time, and I got
Cherry
it for a
opened up
good
the
Yeah.
price. It was like
Yeah.
like
You
60,
know, we used to
70
go
bucks,
to
something like
Daniel
that.
down Bend Canyon.
Usually they're in the
I may
hundreds.
be the.
You know,
I don't
like
have
said,
any.
We had dances at school.
Yeah.
I have some
Yeah.
10-inch.
I find that
ones, but
fascinating. I learned more about that
albums,
from
but,
Gary and these guys through this
I may
podcast.
be.
And I
one of
knew
the
there was
largest
dances,
collectors
but I just
of
thought them in my head as
jug
concerts.
band,
And it was no, that was a
bands.
dance, and
Really?
it was a different thing, and I really had to learn that.
Those
you know?
are.
We did them every
I used to
Wednesday at
collect.
South School.
If I was any kind
And
of
then-
collector,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I collected.
Mm-hmm.
Washboard.
My
'cause I'm a
girlfriend
washboard player.
Oh, you are,
Went to
really?
Michigan Lutheran
And,
Seminary.
yeah,
And
been
they
doing
hired
it
the
for
boss man.
50 since
Can't dance at
1967.
Lutheran School.
Okay.
Oh, really?
And Pete
How long
knew
ago
me.
that is?
And
Yeah.
Pete
So
came down.
I have a few
How come he
washboard
danced?
Sam on some, but like
He can't
Clarence
dance.
Williams.
Not allowed to, huh?
Oh yeah.
Is a,
And you said you went to school with Pete,
I have
huh?
all his
He was 2
records,
years
but
older
not
than me.
on 78.
yeah.
He said, "What the hell did they hire a band for?"
Yeah.
Right. Oh.
See a lot.
Wow.
There was music.
Yeah, I
always
just
in my
talked to him
family.
last week,
My
actually.
mother's
Come out of the
interested in
blue.
music.
He's-
My dad
says,
was
"Happy
so much
birthday,
music
Scott."
first. My mother
Messenger,
was,
and I'm like,
on-
"Whoa,
or
Pete."
is.
You still want to come
And
over? Because he's on the
Both my
archive. He goes,
grandfathers are
yes,
musicians.
call me
My
at this
one
number when you
grandfather was a
can.
longtime fiddler.
Every day's a good day, buddy.
Every day is a good day for
Polish
him.
fiddler.
Yeah, he's
My other grandfather
He's a
was
positive
cornet player,
spirit, that's
trumpet
for sure.
player, actually.
Well,